Welcome to video 3, the meta science of evolutionary culturology. Nice to be with you again. This video teaches EvCult in a nutshell, namely the universal scientific units, scale levels, 3 laws, and evolutionary mechanisms of EvCult. So from the last video we saw the 3 scale levels of science, the individual sciences, the meta sciences, and a meta science, which applies to all scale levels. That's EvCult. So here is EvCult in 6 sentences, or a brief summary of EvCult. Let's go through them one by one. So here they come. Starting with number 1, the structure of the unit in culture and biology is the fractal holon parton. There's a diagram of a fractal holon parton there. So, number 1, the structure of the unit in culture and biology is the fractal holon parton. There's another view, or 3 more views of fractal holon partons. On the left, you can just look at something as one unit, but when you look closer or do an X-ray view, you can see the parts that make up the whole. And on the right is an exploded view, something like dissecting a mouse in high school biology, probably. So we can analyze things by pulling them apart and then synthesize things by putting them back together again. Ever pull apart a robot to see how it worked and then put it back together again and it still worked? That's the kind of thing we do. Anyway, there's 3 views of a fractal holon parton, or a unit. In the left view, it just looks like one circle or one sphere. The middle view, we can see the systems within the systems, or the parts within the parts. And on the right hand view, we've extracted them out onto their different scale levels or size levels, each of the units. So, moving on to number 2, the 3 laws of fractal holon partons are also 3 laws of all systems, physics, chemistry, biology, psychology, sociology, information, and culture. Well, information is culture. Anyway, let's look closer at number 2, sentence number 2. There's a fractal holon parton. Sentence 2. The 3 laws of fractal holon partons are also 3 laws of all systems, physics, chemistry, biology, psychology, sociology, anthropology, and information, also known as culture. You can use the word information or culture interchangeably. They're synonyms for each other. Information is culture, culture is information. There's the 3 laws that we've looked at before. Integrate upwards into a larger unit on the scale level above. Law number 2, compete and or cooperate sideways or laterally with other units on the same scale level or other units of the same size, in the same way that people compete with other people or nations compete with other nations, or they cooperate, which is preferable. And law number 3, control and command downwards the smaller units on the level below which are inside them. So those are the 3 laws of all systems, all units in physics, all units in chemistry, all units in biology, all units in psychology, sociology, and information or culture. So, moving right along, sentence number 3, both A systems and B units of culture are fractal Holon partons. Just repeating, sentence 3, both A systems and B units of culture are fractal Holon partons. We looked at this in the previous video. It's a diagram of a system showing the 5 parts, the inputs, the outputs, the system boundary, the algorithm or processor inside the system. Could be a formula such as x plus y equals z, 1 plus 2 equals 3, for example. And the outer environment or ecosystem, the larger system that the smaller system is nested inside of or exists inside of. So there we have our diagram of a system, and in the previous video we showed this. We can change all the units as well to be fractal Holon partons, because the inputs and the outputs, or the tools of a system, are also structured as fractal Holon partons and function via the 3 laws as fractal Holon partons. Both systems and units of culture are fractal Holon partons is the take-home message. So that led us to this diagram here, where we have units of culture on the left as inputs, in the middle a system such as a person, or it could be a computer, and an output in the right hand column, another unit of culture. So inputs over here, maybe think of when someone hears a new word, and so that would be a unit of culture, is that new word, and then it's heard by the person, who's a biological system, or a physico-chemico-geobiological system. And if they speak that new word that they've learnt to somebody else, that's an output when they speak it in the domain of spoken language. So we have another unit of culture over there. In that case, it's the same unit of culture that's being repeated, but you can also combine 2 or more old units together to get a new unit, such as portmanteau words, but we won't get into that now. That's all in the EvCult textbooks. Anyway, systems and units of culture are structured and function as fractal Holon partons. And here's just a few examples of domains in culture: languages, sciences, values, ideologies, narratives or stories. And then there's written fiction, that's a domain in culture. Written non-fiction, such as encyclopedias or science textbooks, or even autobiographies, if they're true. Movies, television, video games, poems, jokes, religions, music, art, inventions, etc. All structured and functioning via the 3 laws. So all of those domains and all the units within those domains are fractal Holon partons. Just some more examples of units of culture. So books, for example, the EvCult textbooks, songs, words, phrases, I'll be back. Or the first rule of EvCult is that you do not talk about EvCult. EvCult isn't actually a cult, it's a meta science, but when we contract culturology to cult, it becomes EvCult. Games, novels, articles, mechanical inventions such as a computer or a car, scientific instruments such as a computer or a telescope, or CRISPR gene editing technology, etc. These are all units of culture or tools, and they're all structured and function as fractal Holon partons. For a long time nobody knew what the unit of culture was, but in 2016 that all changed. Scientifically we now know it's the fractal Holon parton, and applies to all domains, not just biology and culture. So all of those example units of culture are structured and function as fractal Holon partons, obeying the three laws. Integrate upwards into a larger unit, compete and cooperate with units on the same scale level, and command and control the smaller units which are inside them. So a book controls the chapters and the paragraphs and the words and the letters that are inside the book. Of course, there is an author of the book, whether it's a human or an AI, and they control the book, but they're all structured as fractal Holon partons and functioning via the three laws. You can test that scientifically yourself. We'll get to that. So, to sum up again, both systems and units of culture, or tools, are structured and function via the three laws as fractal Holon partons. Worth repeating. So all systems, whether they be astronomical systems such as universes or galaxies or solar systems, mechanical systems such as cars and computers, factories, electronic systems, cars and computers, organic such as plants, animals, human animals, social systems, whether they're families or institutions, etc., legal systems, etc. They all are fractal Holon partons, and they're all governed by the three laws, scientifically speaking. So here's a snapshot of the EvCult worldview again, showing different units on different scale levels of the fractal Holon parton there, from atoms down near the bottom, up through people and planets, up to the universe, etc. In short, you are a system of systems inside more systems. So we can look at that diagram and pick one scale level, say a planet, or say a person, or a cell, and identify which one of those systems, or which various of those systems it belongs to, whether it's organic systems, organic and electronic systems, mechanical systems, etc. So likewise, all tools, which are units of culture. A tool is just a unit of culture used to solve a problem or achieve a goal or an aim. So all tools, units of culture, include gestures, pointing, for example, words and languages, like I'm speaking right now, machines, like you're probably watching this on, books, films, songs. These are all tools for solving problems or achieving goals, whether it be a communication goal of a message somebody wants to communicate, or whether somebody wants to be entertained. These are all problems or aims or goals that can be solved using these tools, for example, these units of culture. And there's 50,000 domains in culture, but they're all fractal Holon partons governed by the three laws of Holon partons. Integrate upwards, compete and cooperate sideways, control and command downwards. So, to recap, both systems and tools, or units of culture, are structured and function via the three laws as fractal Holon partons. Worth repeating. So, we are now up to number 4. To find or identify the units and scale levels in any domain, use the three laws as a diagnostic tool. There we go again. To find units on different scale levels, use the three laws. So an example is, if you think of this tool, integrate upwards, compete and cooperate sideways, control and command downwards. If you use that tool to find things, whether it's a book, chapter, paragraph, sentence, word, letter, or a cell, organ, organ system, organism, superorganism, biome, biosphere, etc. You can use these three laws, use them as a tool to find the units in any domain. Like so, there's a diagram communicating that idea. We have a larger unit up the top, made up of two smaller units, and we're zooming in on that second scale level there. That second symbol of the three laws of fractal Holon partons. So you can use it as a tool to find the units in any domain. So we can find the units in biology using the three laws. Look for things that integrate upwards, compete or cooperate sideways, and control and command downwards. Or you can use it in culture, books, chapters, paragraphs, sentences, etc. These ones are all fairly obvious, but when you go looking in domains that you're not familiar with, it's very helpful to have the three laws as a diagnostic tool. Or in nature, the universe, then the smaller scale level is a system called a metagalaxy. They're a system made of smaller systems called galaxies. They're a system of smaller systems called solar systems, etc. They're all fractal Holon partons. They're all units on different scale levels. So to find your units on the different scale levels, use the three laws as a tool. There's the three laws again: integrate upwards, compete and cooperate sideways with units on the same scale level, command and control downwards or inwards, the small units inside. So there's some examples in nature, biology and culture, from large down to small, on different scale levels of the fractal Holon parton. All domains in culture and in anything are fractal Holon partons. More about that in one of the EvCult textbooks and on the blog. So there's our three universal scientific laws of all units. Integrate upwards into a larger unit on the scale level above. Cooperate and or compete with units on the same scale level, sideways or laterally. And command and control the smaller units which are inside them, and that's usually called command and control downwards. The three laws. Always good to integrate upwards into a larger group or a larger cause than yourself, perhaps such as science or even meta science if you become an evolutionary culturologist. There's the fractal Holon parton from quarks or strings on a very small scale level all the way up to a multiverse. Moving right along, number 5, evolutionary algorithms operate on these units, including selection and transmission, or the ST algorithm, selection, variation and transmission, or SVT, BVSR, or blind variation and selective retention, Ideas iterate through processes to products and back the other way. That's I equals P. And the fractal systems meta model of biocultural evolutionary creativity from Ev Cult. So now that we know what the units are, fractal Holon partons in all domains, here's some of the evolutionary algorithms or mechanisms of change that operate on them, such as selection, variation, and transmission. There's one diagram from Elements of Ev Cult. You can select two units from the pool of units. You can then vary them by combining their parts and then transmit that new unit back into the pool, which is pretty much what happens with all units of culture. When books come out, they're usually influenced by two or more prior books, or movies are often pitched as a combination of two old movies combined. So anyway, that's just a quick snapshot. We won't spend too long on the evolutionary algorithms. I won't go too deep into that. That's all in the textbooks and on the blog. Here's another evolutionary algorithm, the fractal systems meta model of biocultural evolutionary creativity from Ev Cult. What we have there is up top, that square shape, or the fractal square shape, is the domain, so any domain in culture. Down on the bottom right, we have an agent, such as a person or an AI, and on the bottom left, that those fractal circles, that's the field or the group of people who are the gatekeepers for a domain in culture, such as publishers and critics, distributors, the producers and consumers for that domain in culture, basically. Anyway, that's the fractal systems meta model. That's another evolutionary algorithm that shows how culture evolves on different scale levels over time. More about that in Elements of Ev Cult and on the blog. So there are over 50,000 domains in culture. Those are just some examples, but they all work exactly the same way. All the units are fractal Holon partons, and Ev Cult provides the units, scale levels, three laws, and evolutionary mechanisms. And lucky last, number 6, units of culture are tools or problem solutions, and they come in 4 categories. Number 1, ideas. 2, mental processes. 3, physical processes. And 4, products. So this is getting into the 4-part taxonomy of all culture from Ev Cult. There's a quick diagram of it. All units of culture, be they books, movies, songs, inventions, words, languages, anything, either 1, 2, 3, or all 4 of these categories. They're an idea or a mental process or a physical process or a product. And units of culture travel backwards and forward across those states. When you have an idea, you might go through the mental process of working out how to make it physical in the real world. Then you go through a physical process of making it and you end up with a product. For example, writing a book or making a film or even speaking a sentence that you just thought of saying. Anyway, there's a reading on that using ChatGPT as a culture classifier for Ev Cult's 4-part taxonomy of units of culture. So that's on the Ev Cult blog. You can read more about that. So all of nature, all of biology, all of culture are structured and function as fractal Holon partons for the units. In short, the structure and functioning of nature, biology and culture, which includes everything, is the fractal Holon parton. So once again, there's our 3 scale levels of generality in science. Ev Cult is a meta science that applies to everything, including the arts and humanities, because now we have the units, fractal Holon partons. all domains fall under the purview of meta-meta science now. So, if somebody asks you what is evolutionary culturology in a nutshell, EvCult is a new meta-meta science, also known as a scientific all-disciplinary matrix. If you're thinking of Thomas Kuhn and the structure of scientific revolutions, or a scientific meta-meta discipline, because it applies to all disciplines, that provides a single standard universal one-size-fits-all set of scientific units, the fractal Holon parton, scale levels, use the fractal Holon parton 3 laws to find the size levels, evolutionary mechanisms, which we touched on some of them, ST, SVT, BVSR, the FSM of Bekeck, etc. And 3 laws that apply to all domains. So that's EvCult in a nutshell. Once again, it applies to everything. We can see the units and scale levels there: atoms, molecules, cells, organs, people, families, cities, countries, planets, galaxies, universe, multiverse. EvCult is also a solution to consilience, the unity of knowledge. See the book by Ed Wilson, 1998, for more on that. Here's why: it creates the vertical integration of the sciences and all knowledge, and it unifies science, the social science and the arts under one scientific framework. Here's a closer look at that diagram. So you can see there all of the domains are evolutionary because they all have those mechanisms of change working on them, and all the units are fractal Holon partons in all domains. So that solves consilience, the unity of knowledge, also known as the vertical integration of the sciences, and also including the arts and humanities within the sciences now. And regarding the infinite real-world applications of EvCult, there's an online essay you can read there. There'll be a link to that. So a recap: in this video we have looked at the universal scientific units, scale levels, 3 laws and evolutionary mechanisms of EvCult, looking at it there in 6 sentences or 6 units of culture, if you're counting units on the scale level of the sentence. And why not try the quiz? See the quiz link to test your understanding of EvCult in 6 sentences. And don't forget, if you have any questions, you can ask the EvCult Tutor GPT. Don't forget that link there. So don't forget, you can ask the EvCult Tutor GPT anything you like. Maybe if you didn't understand anything so far in the course, ask it any questions you like. It's there on the EvCult weblog. You'll find a link to it, and ask it any questions you like. It's a handy little tool or system or unit of culture. And a quick preview of the next lesson: teaching ChatGPT evolutionary culturology via custom instructions. So we'll be pasting in a couple of custom instructions and seeing what ChatGPT can tell us about everything once we've given it a whole new meta-meta science to view the world through as a new world view. Anyway, that's coming up next lesson. I look forward to seeing you then.